Today, we're going to be looking ahead. Our challenge is to think about where people are changing, lifestyles are changing, technology is changing. And to begin our discussion today, we're excited to have Jim Dion with us. Jim's information is in your packet. I'm going to follow through to what I've always said. We're not going to go through these long explanations talking about the people. We want to hear Jim talk about what he's seeing, about what's happening both in this country and globally in terms of leisure time trends that will impact America's public lands and public waters. And so with that, please welcome Jim Dion. Jim.
Thank you, Derek. I'm going to use this. I have this. I'm wired.
Oh, you're wired?
Yep, they already set me up. Thank you very much for this opportunity, Derek. You heard the news last week? British Airways got shut down for a day because of a power surge. And people said, how can a modern airline get shut down because of a power surge? And NBC News reported that, well, the airlines are struggling managing complex legacy technology. I thought, what a great term, legacy technology. I remember when I was a concessionaire at Big Bend National Park, and we ran a business with a Princess phone and a slide projector, right? And we were able to go into business and do things that people can do today. And then 1995 happened, Windows 95, and that first wave of technology. And every year things change, and people's behavior change along with it as technology increasingly influences our lives and how we make decisions. Tourism matters because at that one moment in time when British Airways got shut down because of the power surge, 75,000 people were stranded at the Heathrow bottleneck because more and more people are traveling to more places than they ever have before. And we've really blurred the line between what's work and what's leisure and how we experience places. You can travel as long as you're connected. You can work while you're traveling and while you're experiencing things. And more people are able to access information on how to go to places that they didn't really realize maybe even existed before. A European vacation used to be London, Paris, and Rome. One of the fastest growing destinations right now in Europe is Butrint in southern Albania. 20 years ago, you couldn't find Butrint in southern Albania. So as people change, we have great opportunities here. You know, we talk about too many visitors at Yosemite National Park or some of the legacy national parks. There's 400 national park units in the United States. What a great opportunity to be able to partner with our visitors to let them know where these places are, these lesser known, lesser appreciated people and places, so that more people can benefit from tourism. And what I think is really interesting about this slide is 1 in 11 jobs internationally are directly or indirectly influenced by tourism. And that means when you go on vacation, you stop at the CVS and you pick up what you forgot. You put gas in your car. You go to a little restaurant. Our national parks are incredible economic gateways for communities. Those mom and pop restaurants, sometimes maybe that 100 or 200 extra meals they're going to serve during the high season is the difference between opening the doors and closing the doors. So our partnerships are partnering not only with our private sector, but also with travelers as well, so that we can better meet their needs as travelers so that they can make decisions in order for us to be able to better benefit from travel and tourism. And it's huge, and it's growing all the time. It's perhaps one of the fastest growing industries in the world. And look at these numbers for China. These people are going out and experiencing the world as middle-class travelers like no one ever has before and behaving in different ways. And if we look at the history of travel and tourism, we're kind of in this major transformation stage. Before World War II, travel was something that only really rich people could do. It was the purview of the upper classes. After World War II, an interesting phenomena happened. The United States became an industrial power, and Europe had to rebuild itself. The United States started the Marshall Plan in Europe and put everyone to work back reconstructing Europe. Those are hard jobs. People were working with steel, people were working in mines and building and construction, and real hard jobs where they're working physically every day. Spain was spared a lot of World War II because the Spanish Civil War preceded World War II. They were kind of left alone. What Spain has is 300 days of sun a year. If you've ever been to England, Germany, Scandinavia, Eastern Europe, not a lot of sun there in the European peninsula. So they capitalized on it. A company called Barceló built the first purpose-built resorts along Dormitor in the Costa del Sol in Spain. And those hard-working middle-class Europeans were able to get in a plane because of these infrastructure that was built during the war, land in Spain, spend 3 or 4 days having sun, sand, sea, sex, and cervezas, the 5 S's. And the 5 S's became the model that was exported around the world. One of the last places that was really successful is the model in Cancun. Huatulco in Mexico is kind of considered a bridge too far. It was one of the first purpose-built resort areas that kind of failed and didn't live up to the promise. But still, if we go to developers and we look at tourism, they tell us, well, you need purpose-built infrastructure. You need water parks. You need German Bavarian villages. You need all these things that come back from that same legacy of the United States as well after World War II, when Walt Disney built in California, which was America's fastest growing place in 1949, they built Disneyland, and the Dells in Wisconsin. But people have changed, and people's technology and use of technology have changed. We're also seeing in these second and third generation Chinese and European tourists, when they come to the United States, they're no longer taking as many motor coach tours as they did. The second generations aren't traveling the way that their parents did. I was talking to Tiger Wu. He's one of the directors of Sun Tours in China, perhaps the second largest tour operator in China. And he said their fastest growing product right now is a triptych to the United States. You might remember the triptychs that come from AAA. So in China, you buy your rental car voucher, your hotel vouchers. You don't have to speak a word of English. You just give the vouchers, and you can travel all over America. And I think more and more people are looking to travel as free and independent travelers in places because of their interconnectivity. So travel and leisure is changing as these global markets of increasing travelers go to more and more places and have the opportunity to experience more places in more regions. In 2012, Brand USA came in, which was a great idea in order for us to be able to not only market to these increasing international visitors, but also to encourage Americans to travel within the United States and its territories to see all that our country has to offer. And again, that's those lesser appreciated, lesser known places, because people have the power of the internet, they have the power of the smartphone with them, where they can take this technology and be able to experience places in a way that kind of mitigates their risk of wanting to be able to go to a place that's tried and true. So, recreation on public lands is a big part of this. It has an economic impact of over $40 billion a year. Estimated 373 jobs are supported by recreation on public lands. 24% of travelers said they were planning to vacation at a national or state park in 2015. We did this project with Sedona Verde Valley. Sedona and the cities around it, Cottonwood, Clarksdale, and Jerome, trying to get together to create a new destination because of changes in lifestyle. Those moonbeamers and people that were looking for those spiritual vortexes are now in their 60s and 70s, and that new generation of travelers that are coming to that region want to explore the Cochino National Forest and be able to go outside and recreate and bike and hike. And we sat down with the people that are trying to transform their economy to a more experiential economy in the Sedona region, and the Forest Service said, hey, this is a problem for us. This isn't our mandate. It's hard for us to manage all the visitors that are coming here, yet we have a national park level forest next to these incredible towns. So how do we create better partnerships so that these local people can transform their economies, still benefit from having the national forest that's there for all these recreation opportunities for people, and create a partnership to build a new economy to create better opportunities for people? And so we look at concepts of sustainability. It has to be part of what we're doing. And sustainability is kind of fostering ways in which the triple bottom line in which people, places, and our economy could all benefit. We want tourism that conserves our natural heritage and biodiversity, conserve built and living cultural heritage, and provide socioeconomic benefits to all stakeholders. And part of that is people that come visit today are kind of the amenity migrants in the future and the investors into these communities. And I see great opportunity there. As capital becomes more and more mobile because of technology and people can live in places in which they want to play, we have opportunities to transform some of these smaller cities and places that have been struggling in other places because of the amenities that they have to offer for people that visit there. I began this program with National Geographic back in 2005, and I see some people here that we've been working with for years. And we had a concept of sustainable tourism based on Jonathan Turtellow, who is a former senior editor at Traveler magazine, who coined tourism that sustains or enhances the geographical character of a place, its environment, culture, aesthetics, heritage, and the well-being of its residents. right? This holistic aspect of partnering with all people within a destination to create unforgettable experiences for people that visit your place. We enable local partners to gather and disseminate rich information about places and try to put together and create a virtuous dialogue between people and places and visitors. And as social connectivity and social media become more and more important, the opportunity from someone from Paris, Kentucky, and Paris, France, to be able to talk to each other, to get their advice that if I happen to be in Paris, Kentucky, what's the best barbecue joint? Because that person in Paris, France is going to trust that recommendation from that local person more than they probably will from a state or a county tourism promotional board or for some other things that they read about. And so that people-people connectivity, I think, is our most important evolving partnership in travel and tourism. So we did 23 of these programs from 2005 to 2016. Recently, National Geographic has not been allowing us to continue co-branding with these destinations for a lot of reasons I won't get into here. But mining that information from over 12 years of doing this work, we were able to create kind of a profile of people that this particular program was appealing to you. And I see the average age here being kind of that baby boomer generation. What I learned from that was we were creating these static websites in which people come to the website and they kind of consume information. But people, as in their social interactivity and how they travel, are looking more increasingly to experience, learn, and interact. If I can't experience something, I can't learn something that's there, and I can't interact with it, it has less value for me. And this is where we learn that even though people are looking to go local, they want to patronize locally owned businesses, eat at restaurants serving regional cuisine, buy from local craftspeople, seek out traditional music and dance, value learning about the places they visit, and plan multiple and diverse experiences. The way in which they do that is evolving, and we have to respond to that so we can have a better partnership with people that are visiting our places. And that brings us to the millennials, right? Tabbed the world's first global generation. What I find is interesting here, this age group between 18 and 34, millennials from both China and USA exhibit social media and consumer behavior more like each other than they do from other generations in their respective countries. I think that's pretty profound. If we see these numbers of Chinese travelers that are traveling, and they're looking to connect through social media with Americans that were within places, there's a great opportunity for us to be able to create more benefits for more people in more places. Millennials are defined as the first generation of digital natives. Among college-educated, I think this is interesting, only 54% own a television. Right? We see networks are changing and communications is changing. More and more people want what information on demand. It's the same way in which they're gathering information about travel and tourism. They want technology, great Wi-Fi and apps, and applications that help them to be able to interpret places and be able to use and interact when they're within places. They believe their peers, they follow recommendations via social media, so we have to be increasingly also connected on these different and evolving platforms that are out there. Cultural experiences reign over partying. 72% of millennials choose to spend more money on experiences than material items. I find that interesting also, right? As we get into a different way in which we measure success. Health and wellness is now considered a higher measure of success than physical standard of living based on income among millennial generations. Millennials will make an extra effort to experience that sought-after authentic meal, and sometimes it's not even about the food. I was in Philadelphia a couple of weeks ago, and with some people from Philadelphia State Parks, and they recommended, when I'm in downtown Philadelphia, that I take a bike share from the bike sharing rack, and I bike 5 miles up the Schuylkill River to go to the Valley Green Inn, because that's the most authentic experience they could recommend for eating in Philadelphia, and the food's okay too. But it's that experience and that immersive kind of history of being there, right? Millennials are 23% more likely to travel abroad than their older counterparts, are on track to spend $1.4 trillion on travel each year by 2020. That's a lot of money. And we are an exotic culture from people from other places, and that's how we have to look at ourselves. I think we also have to get better in our partnerships to be able to interpret the American experience, the USA experience from people abroad. A lot of times we don't have the power of our own brand description and our own brand identifier. Other people from other places might have those opinions. So I think it's important for us to be able to state who we are, what our values are, and what's so important about our sense of place. 86% of millennials would rather experience a new culture when they travel. 78% want to learn something new when they travel. Want to experience, we want to learn. It's not your parents' generation. Sitting on a beach for a few days isn't as attractive as it was before. But that doesn't mean people still don't go to amusement parks and go to beaches and have leisure vacations. They're just doing more things. Today's leisure traveler, someone that's taking a cruise, might be that same person that's going to go to Sonoma County next week or take a 100-mile bike ride up at the C&O Canal. And so we're seeing increasingly that people are behaving in more diverse ways when they travel. Oops, I went too fast there. Millennial travelers prefer unique experience, are more apt to seek out lesser known and appreciated places. And I think that's a great opportunity for our national parks, our Forest Service, our National Fish and Wildlife Service units, because people are looking for that exotic experience. I think we could help by actually advertising that, in August we get too many visitors to Yosemite. Why don't you try these alternatives? As long as we can provide rich experiences for people when they're there. Millennial travelers are both high and low budget. Right? That's why campgrounds, RVing, these types of interactivities are still in vogue, but at the same time, also higher end activities, sometimes in the same trips. So those people that go and spend time at a purpose-built resort are the same people that might also in their next vacation go camping for a few days. That didn't happen as much 20 years ago as it does now. Millennial travelers want to leave their hotel rooms. I mean, literally, they want to leave their hotel rooms. Couch surfing, Airbnb, VRBO, and a lot of these are challenging in the economy, but what allows millennials to do is interact with a local person. I was talking to one of my interns the other day. He's a Chinese guy from China, really, really intelligent guy. He couch surfed across Europe, and this summer he's Airbnb-ing across the United States because he goes, I want to meet people. If I go to a hotel, I'm in a box, right? I don't want to be locked in a box. I think that's increasingly important. And then the sharing economy, right, will also change how people behave in places, and people are more active when they're going out to places than they were in the past. The centennials is everyone younger than 18 years old, and they're growing up in a much different world. And I think there are going to be ways in which we can have either more opportunities to engage more and more people in important ways about the importance of protection, protected areas, and outdoor experiences. But they ask a lot of questions, and they have a lot of technology at their hand to do so. Their world is going to be a lot different. Other than asking Siri, how do I get there? It's going to be, Siri, take me there. And I'm going to sit in the car as long as I know where I'm going. PlayStation is evolving into a whole integrated network in which you'll be able to get almost virtually all your information around a place and through a place, also game and experience it. The centennials are also increasingly measuring by gaming ways in which they're successful at having an experience, ways in which we can geocache, find your Pokemon, how our national parks and our protected areas can create ways for people to interact for meaningful ways and then measure what their success is over time. I find it interesting the transition of professional sports in the United States. When I look at my son's generation, he's 14 years old. He's playing virtual baseball with a global community of people where you choose your own teams among the last 100 years of baseball players, and they can react and they can interact with that technology at the same time, where he just, even though he's a baseball player, he won't sit down and watch a baseball game. It doesn't make sense anymore. So I think we have to look at ways in which younger people are going to be not just finding their park, but how can I experience that park? Can I walk there with my smartphone, take a picture of that tree and learn about that tree? Or can I learn about what this historic area is? What are ways in which technology can increasingly help us to be able to gather knowledge while we're going down that travel, pathway? At the end of the day, it's still the same basic things that we do when we travel. I don't think that's changed that much. When I was a river guide, it was Hypalon, Kyle paddles, and Rubbermaid coolers, and it still hasn't changed that much today. But how we get there and what we experience when we're there has changed. So I think it's important for us to identify, develop, market, and sustain what's authentic about our places and be able to market that authenticity to a global market of geo-travelers around the world. So I believe that part of these partnerships is promoting gateways to public lands is increasingly important. We did a project with the Delaware Water Gap. We worked with the 9 counties in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York in order to sit down with the with the National Recreation Area that gets over 5 million visitors a year, and how these communities and these micro, small, and medium businesses can better benefit from having 4 million visitors go to the National Recreation Area. And the park is actually working with them that when you go into the park, you learn about all these other opportunities to consume goods and services. People are looking for, you know, that idea of going camping, having a barbecue 3 meals a day, then going out and walking around has really changed a lot. What they find is people are driving into the park, but then they're looking for, okay, we want to spend the night in Milford, we want to stay at a nice little bed and breakfast, we want to find an authentic restaurant, and we'll continue our hike tomorrow. And I think it's important that we transform how we look at how we manage travelers within our parks over time. We want to engage leaders and decision makers, great places to live or great places to visit. And I think those gateway communities tied to our public lands is very important for us as well, and how we develop in sync with each other so that these are complementary experiences. We want to plan for the long term. I always use Toledo, Spain. I was really amazed. I was there in 2012. This is a painting by El Greco, who died in Toledo, Spain in 1614. I took this photo in 2012, and I'm not dead yet. And yet, they went to great measures to be able to keep themselves from becoming a museum city. It's a place where people live and thrive, and they really support that. If you're not Spanish and you're not a Toledero, it's almost impossible to buy real estate in this town. And they keep this legacy. And I talked to people in Toledo that have been there since Charles V, 1100 AD, they can trace their family history. It's one of the most successful tourism places in Spain. Its culture, its history, and it's alive, right? It's not a purpose-built area. We want to engage communities because the product is the place. We want to protect our place-based authenticity. Sitka, Alaska is one of the most holistic places I've ever been. Camille's sitting over here, and I use this slide even when you're not in the room. I was amazed. Now, I lived in Seward, Alaska way back when for about a year. And, you look at Alaska and, it's mountains and bald eagles and killer whales and forests. And yet, I got to Sitka and I realized, wow, this is Alaska's second largest fishing fleet that docks right downtown. You can walk down the street and have this great kind of interaction with those local people. It has national parks and has this great, I really think the fort diorama in Sitka is incredible, where they show where the cannons, other than pointing out to the water, when maybe you're waiting for pirates to come in, pointed at the Indian communities, at the Tlingit communities, to protect the fur traders, right? So, you can have these type of experience in places if we understand what our product is and how we're different from other places. And telling the story of places is so important for that. We need to engage stewards of our public lands to be more interactive. I want to see more rangers. I want to see more people when I go to these public places to be able to interact with us over time. And hopefully we can get back to that storytelling aspect of it. So engaging local tourism stakeholders, because local voices inspire global audiences. We want to encourage entrepreneurial initiatives that bring benefits for people and places in appropriate ways. I don't know if anyone here has ever taken the Durango-Silverton Railway, but it's a great experience. And it was started when Silverton mine shut down. They got together, they bought the steam trains that they used to use to get the mining out of there down to Durango, which is a very successful tourism area. Started bringing people up through the beautiful valley there, and that brought Silverton back to life. So there's ways in which we can create these partnerships to work with places, to tell our stories that inspire people to want to come and visit them and create more benefits for more places over time, and enhance benefits for micro, small, and medium businesses, and create a win-win where our measures of success in tourism isn't the number of visitors, but it's the quality of the visits, the length of stay and the money spent, distribution from tourism and money spent locally, and how tourism is sustaining our sense of place, and creating partnerships between people, places, visitors, and our outdoor recreation places so that we can better benefit holistically over time. Thank you.